It's Friday, June 3rd, 2016.
I'm Michael Agello with no lower third.
I'm Jillian Fisher, whose lower third is back. What?
And I'm Ty Anderson, wondering what a lower third is.
It's that little name thing that you have on there. Yeah. And you probably just, whatever. And I'm Eklund. And I don't need a lower third, damn it. You know who I am. You have any idea who I am? Just kidding. Lord. Now you're watching HockeyBuzzCast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes to you every Monday through Friday around 1 o'clock in the afternoon to fill you in on the hockey comings and goings that are going on in this great league of ours. And there are lots of things to talk about today, of course, because we are in between. And of course, you know what, Microsoft's decided I need virus protection right now. I don't need virus protection right now. So I'm going to turn that off so it doesn't make that sound anymore. Thank you very much. Good God. But let's talk hockey. Can we, please?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
What do you want to talk about?
Let's start here. I want to talk about my blog today because I like we know I do not discuss player rumors until they're eliminated from the playoffs, and Backes and Shattenkirk are two players now that have been eliminated. So I waited the sufficient mourning period, and I have now put it out that we have allowed to what's going on with these two players, and I think it's a little more interesting than people thought it would be. And it's funny because I was talking about this to somebody, and a couple people agree with me that actually there's a better chance they believe that Shattenkirk leaves than Backes, and where a lot of people are thinking that Backes is definitely going, and Shattenkirk could possibly stay. They've been trying to trade Shattenkirk for over a year. So the reality is they're not in love with Shattenkirk. He's a great player, but the money is not good for them. It doesn't work right. They want to make changes. They have other defensemen. And there are teams that are interested in Shattenkirk, and that also makes this, of course, all the more interesting. And we'll get to that in a second. Backes, on the other hand, really is kind of a different story because Hitchcock returns, and the reality is Ken Hitchcock needs David Backes, and I don't know this for fact, but knowing Hitch a little bit, I wouldn't be surprised if he were some kind of assurance that Backes would be back. That he would be back with them, because the way Hitch works is this: he is very into having a player on the team that sells his system. In Philadelphia, that player was Keith Primo, and it worked in Philadelphia until Keith Primo got hurt, and then in Philadelphia it fell apart when Keith Primo left. I think Hitch is really dependent on David Backes to make this thing work. If he's going to stay one more year, I think they might come up with some pretty good deal for Backes to do a one-year deal here. Now, I know that that's not what we would think he's going to do.
Yeah, I have a problem with that act because it would be one thing if Backes was in his mid-20s and a one-year contract was something that he could just do and still get his money after the fact, but he's coming off a good year, he's coming off a good playoff, he's 31 years old, and this could be his last big contract, and you can't roll the dice. I'm sure he wants to stay in St. Louis, but I think the one thing is that he wants the security of a long-term deal too. Maybe.
Well, of course, yeah, no, this is true, he does, but I think I'm very curious. I don't know for fact, so I'm simply guessing here, but I have a feeling he's going to be back. Maybe it's a 3-year deal or something like that. Maybe it's something like that. But I don't think they're going to sign Backes to the big deal. I believe Backes could probably get more money elsewhere. I think it will be a hometown discount to a degree. Although there's a lot of Ty. What are your thoughts on David Backes as a player? There's a lot of.
I like David Backes as a player, but it's not a player that I overextend myself for.
Yeah. Because
of the style that he plays and his age and everything like that. I think when we looked at the Ryan Kessler extension in Anaheim, we all liked it at the time, but then we thought, okay, well, years 5, 6, 7, that's going to be rough.
Yeah.
And I think, not that you're seeing that already, but, the style that he plays, it's a grinding style. It's going to wear on your body. You're going to start having some nicks and bruises here and there that are going to, they're not going to go away as quick as they did 5 years ago. And I do think that's an issue. So, for all the intangibles and everything he brings to the table, I think you have to be wary of signing a guy to that kind of extension. For example, look at Ryan Callahan. If you could redo that contract and not give him $5.5 per year, you probably do, because you just realize that, okay, while there is value in what he does, it's not over $5 million, or for 6 or 7 years. And I think that's a big issue that teams ran into quite a while there, especially when the free agent markets were so thin.
Yep.
From that era from 2011 to 2014, I would say, where teams really had a hard time finding worthwhile talent to sign. So they were signing these marginal guys to these gigantic contracts. I don't want to say that Backus is marginal, but he's not a 70-point guy. He's not an 80-point guy. So
Right.
you have to. It's buyer beware, I think, and he looks like a guy that could get a Kessler-like contract, and that scares me if I'm a team.
Well, I mean, and
I
this
agree.
is the thing. Look at his here. These are his numbers the last 5 years. 24 goals in 2012. The lockout shortened season, he had a bad year. He only had 6 goals in 48 games. Then the last 3 years, 27, 26, and 21. Consistent, but they're starting to trend downward. And that's the thing you have to worry about, is that he, on a short-term deal, say 3 years, is probably going to be expecting $6 million. And I don't think the Blues, after signing Tarasenko, and one of the reasons I think that Shattenkirk is probably gone is because he's 1 year away from being a UFA. Colton Parayko comes on the scene on his entry-level deal. They have Bo Meester, and they have Peter Angelo already in place. They extended Gunnarsson. So I think it's set up perfectly to move Shattenkirk to open up salary, but he's only making, I think, $4 million right now, so you're not opening up a ton of cap space by trading Shattenkirk, and you're probably going to take salary back in a deal for Shattenkirk.
Yeah, you're going to have to. I really don't think that if I'm the Blues, I go any more than I go with Hitchcock. So to me, it's a 1 year deal. Bring him back with Hitchcock, 1 year. Now that, I go 1 year, $6 million. Okay, that's a big deal. That's a big contract. I don't think anyone else is going to get. I think
That's risky for Backus, though.
I don't
it's very risky for Backus. But on the other hand, I don't think there's going to be as much money out there for Backus as people think. But just because what I keep hearing is how you can just knock $1 million off of what you would expect from like a year ago on all these contracts, and a year off in other cases, because remember the cap's not going up. There's a real friction that's happening there, and Backus is not exactly a superstar.
Let me ask Jillian this: based on the numbers that I just read off, if Doug Armstrong, the St. Louis GM, goes to David Backus and says what Eck just said, a 1 year deal for $6 million, or he gets an offer from somebody else for 3 years for $5 million, what do you?
And you go with a 3 year for $5 million. I'm sorry, you do, and I'm sure that he gets pressure elsewhere because they want that. Because what if he has a horrible year? What if he has a serious injury? That's the style of play he has.
Yeah,
and things are all possible. And for me, as a player gets older, we're seeing this league is getting faster and faster. And I don't think that if you have this 1 year, man, you are putting a lot on the line. And if he does, the relationship between him and Hitchcock is much closer than I think most of us imagine.
Yeah, and he's never been a speed demon. And the thing is, if you look at the free agent pool right now, he could arguably be the number 2 center in this pool behind Stamkos. So you cannot pass up the opportunity to go free agent. I mean, I'm sure he wants to stay in St. Louis, but if St. Louis is offering a 1 year deal, you say bye-bye because you're going to get a better deal someplace else.
I don't know. I mean, now there are other teams that are interested in him, of course, and one of those teams is your very own Toronto Maple Leafs.
I don't buy it for the slightest. There's no way.
Absolutely 100%.
To drive up price?
No, it is. Ty?
I think a team like the New York Islanders would be very interested if he does make it to the market. They might lose Franz Nielsen. They also might lose Matt Martin. I mean, Backus fills both of those needs right off the bat in terms of, especially if they lose Okposo as well. I mean, that's you have openings everywhere for this guy. I mean, he can play that physical role on the wing for your penalty kill, or if you need a statement sort of shift. He's not a fourth liner, of course, but it would alleviate some of the, the issues that come with Matt Martin potentially leaving. He could be on that top line next to Tavares as that net front sort of jam away along the walls kind of guy. So I think that's a fit there. But I don't know. I mean, one of these teams, I think, I could see like a younger team. I don't know if it's Toronto, but I could see a younger team saying, all right, we need this guy as like our veteran presence to take that next step forward in our rebuilding process. So that I could see.
Calgary's another team, very similar. Calgary's a very similar team.
It's a matter of I think what you want to do as a team and what you have coming up in terms of your contracts and your long-term scope. And I don't know all 30 teams off the top of my head in terms of the future contracts. I don't think anyone does. But it's easy to see where a young team could try to slide him in as that leader for their group.
Yeah. And I want to say this. I'll say it and let you talk about Toronto, Mike, because I'm going to say this about what I heard about Toronto, because I did hear it from two very good sources. And then what was said to me, the last thing that was said to me about this was just like an hour ago, and it was really interesting because that person said, okay, look at Edmonton, look at what's gone on in Edmonton.
Sure.
Lou Lamoriello, okay, and Lou Lamoriello does not like to go with a purely young team without any experience at all. So if you're going to go out there and you're going to get some experience, the kind of experience that Lou likes is David Backes. That is right up his alley. That's the kind he wants a guy who's got guts, a guy who has been a captain. He can go and he can lead. He can teach these kids how to win. He can teach it, and that is the perfect fit for him. And Lou is really high on this thing. I guess that sounds wrong, but he's really up on this. This is what he wants to do.
It's the perfect fit as a plan B if they do not get Stamkos. But I am of the opinion that they are the leading candidate for Stamkos.
I don't think it's either or, and I asked that question.
Well, they have just so much cap room, they can't sign everybody. That's the thing. It's
when you're looking at where they are, they do have enough cap space. They have quite a bit of cap space.
Well, I mean, okay, if we're talking 3 years,
right?
Then maybe it's a possibility, but I think it also would be if they went out and signed Stamkos and drafted Matthews and signed Jimmy Vesey. There's just so many top 6 forwards you can have. Does that mean that they trade James Van Riemsdyk? I mean, that's the thing. It's like I think I think their options in terms of what they're looking for, their priorities is not adding another center or a guy who can play the wing. It's defense and it's goaltending. I mean, if they're going to have to expend resources and monetary resources, it's on me. I think there's a greater likelihood of them trading for Shattenkirk than there is signing Backes.
And I asked that question too because that's what I felt as well. I would agree with you. Like logically, that's where my head went to too. And they said no, the Shattenkirk was not a Lamoriello player. But
it's Babcock. It's bad. I mean.
It's both. It is both. I mean, there's people try to diminish what the power Lou has there, but believe me, that Lou might have come in last year like a lamb, but he's not going to be a lamb forever.
Well, I'll give you an example, Ak, and I agree. It's a marriage of two strong-willed personalities, but the problem is that the guy who's going to play the players has the reins in the sense that Lou Lamoriello picked up Frank Corrado off of waivers from Vancouver. Mike Babcock didn't play him for half a season. Why? Because Lou Lamoriello picked him up basically without the counsel of Mike Babcock. He's like, okay, this guy wasn't in training camp. I don't know who this guy is. I'm going to play the guys I know until he started trading players away, and they had to play Frank Corrado. That's what I'm saying. Like, if Mike Babcock isn't signing on to them signing David Backes, or if Mike Babcock wants a Kevin Shattenkirk and gets David Backes instead, I think you're starting a problem that doesn't need to be started.
Well, Babcock is also was also very. I mean, remember Babcock played against Backes a lot. I mean, the Red Wings played against Backes a lot, so he's also a big fan of David Backes. And the money. When you talk about just the money is there for this, even with Stamkos. I was assured that completely. I don't know how much cap space they have exactly, but this is what I was told.
I mean, this year they have about $30 million in cap space, and next year guys like Mahalik and Greening and Bernier drop off the cap, that drop off their roster.
Yes, they go to closer to 40 probably, right?
Right, but then you have to think about if it's anything longer than a 3-year deal, then you have to worry about signing the young guys like Nylander.
And if they don't get Stamkos, that's a ton of money that they have available, because you're looking at a 10 or $11 million there, right? So to me that's so I think it's possible. I think Calgary. I think you're right, Ty. I think a younger team makes sense. I think Phoenix would make sense, or Arizona, or whatever you want to call them now. I think that I think New Jersey would make sense for Backus as well. There
Yes.
are, and I think I agree with the Islanders are a really good fit. I asked about that a little bit. I haven't heard anything in there, but these other teams I've heard a little bit about. But at this point, I just have the Maple Leafs and the Flames on the rumor chart because they're the two that I continually have heard about.
Well, taking into consideration what Dan said on one of the previous webcasts, I think Ty is right on it. The thing is that Mikhail Grabovski may have played his last game in the NHL because of recurrent concussion problems.
Yep.
And he would be on LTIR for the last, I think, 3 years of the contract. That contract's about $5 million. If that money is freed up, then there you go. That's the perfect fit for Backus in New York or in Brooklyn in terms of salary structure.
Yeah, it would fit in that division. It would be interesting. He would be a great Metropolitan Division type player, for sure. That's just now Shattenkirk. Let's talk about Shattenkirk before we get into the other news. Because I think we're boring. I'm sure we're boring Jillian at this point with our rumor talk.
No, I'm interested.
I know.
I was having a drink of water. There's
That's
nothing.
all right. No problem. You can drink. You can drink away. All right, Shattenkirk. Like I said, a year ago, I was just shocked when I started talking to sources during draft day to hear that Shattenkirk's name was being thrown around. That he was absolutely, because I was one of those things, and I was hearing it from people that I know don't make up stuff, like serious reporters, serious people in the NHL, were telling me that Shattenkirk was available. I was kind of shocked by that, but he was. And two of the teams that were talking to him at the draft are my top two teams from right now on my rumor chart. That would be Detroit and Montreal. Montreal kind of surprises me, but there's a lot of talk now that Emlyn could be out of there, and I think that that's going to be an interesting thing too. So if he goes, then Montreal definitely needs to make this kind of a move.
Emelin's been out of Montreal for the last 3 years. Ty would know that because in being in Buffalo and Toronto and Boston, we've seen Emelin, and him and Michel Therrien are like fire and gasoline. They just don't mix. But
and we will talk about that as well for sure.
I honestly think, Ty, and what do you think of this? That if there's a tie between Shattenkirk and Montreal, that could be indicative of the seriousness of them potentially trading PK Subban, because that is just not going away. I can't believe that they would do it, but the more I keep hearing it, the more it's not out of the realm of possibility that he gets moved.
I mean, if they did that, that would be the evening of the playing field for the Tyler Seguin trade in terms of just disasters happening in the Atlantic Division. I mean, if they did that, it's just one of those things I can't imagine it happening just because he's so involved with the community.
Yeah.
But if there's one thing I could see them doing, it's trading him, because the coach is a nightmare, and they think the coach can still win, which is the weirdest thing in the world to me, because he can't. And I just think it would be the proper start of the circus in Montreal. But
the continuation of a circus, actually.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The next act.
Have Price for a whole year. Let's not have Subban forever either. So.
But
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, the Shattenkirk one would make sense because I know we're going to talk about it later. But Kirk Muller going from St. Louis to Montreal, that would sort of add fuel to that fire and make a little sense there.
Right.
But the thing with Shattenkirk is that it's a good contract now, but you're gonna have to pay him next year.
Yeah.
And if you don't, you're gonna lose him for nothing. You're gonna trade assets for nothing, and that's a huge issue, I think. And we all praised Marc Bergevin for a long time, but now he's in a little bit of a hot seat himself here, where a lot of these trades that he's made or these acquisitions haven't really worked out. So his next few pickups or trades or signings, they have to work out. They cannot fall flat like the Semin signing, the Kazian signing. Yeah. I mean, the Scrivens acquisition. I mean, these are moves that did not pan out for Montreal, and so I think all the attention's on the coach, but now it is starting to be on the GM as well. So he has to make some good moves here. So if he gets Shattenkirk, he really has to make sure that he is going to be sticking around for more than just this season.
Yeah, well, it works out almost perfectly because Andrei Markov is a UFA after next year.
Yes.
Shattenkirk has 1 year left, so. If they do trade for Shattenkirk, they can extend him and just say goodbye to Andrei Markov, who I think is like 6,000 years old right now. So, but the thing is with the hiring of Muller, I mean, we sort of get mixed signals here because Michel Therrien is, not to say he's rock solid there, but they bring him back after the bad year. And then you hire Captain...
Whoa. You're saying Montreal is sending mixed signals, Mike. What the heck?
Yes, I am, Mac. Yes,
Really? Montreal? Mixed signals out of Montreal?
Yes.
Holy jeez, that's a big statement. I love Adam Proto's tweet. I tweeted it out. I literally, I'm not a big fan of using the term LOL or ROFL, but I literally did ROFL when reading Adam Proto's tweet, which said clearly this, that Kirk Muller returns to Montreal as an associate coach, thus ending speculation surrounding Michel Therrien's future once and for all.
Exactly.
You didn't write ROFL. You wrote ha.
I did write ha. I should have written ha. I guess
when you do ROFL, you don't.
I'm not hip enough, Jill, to write ROFL. You're not allowed to do that when you get past 40.
You would be hip enough back in like 1999 if you wrote ROFL.
Were you alive in 1999?
I just resort to STFU.
Yeah. My WTF from yesterday. But anyway, no. The reality is this. This is so crazy. Michel Therrien with Kirk Muller. I mean, Kirk Muller is a great coach. I really like Kirk Muller. He's a hell of a coach. One thing I will always remember about Kirk Muller, just a funny, silly aside story. Okay, when I was dating a girl way long time ago, we were in high school, and I was trying to get her into hockey. Right, so we were going through a I had some kind of guide with all the players in it. And she was bored. And I got this NHL yearbook. We were in the now stop it, Mike. we're at a Flyers game. We've all been there. We've all tried to take a date to a hockey game and tried to turn them on to hockey, right? So I'm in there and I'm showing her this and I'm like, she's looking through this thing and she says, I'm bored. I'm gonna find the best looking man in all of hockey. So she goes through this, then she just starts ranking the players as far as who's the hottest star. And Kirk Muller won that prize. I'll always remember that for the rest of my life. That Kirk Muller was the best-looking man in hockey in 1985. So we'll go back and continuing on the story. Michel Therrien. I really appreciate you guys your reaction. Just like nothing.
Dude, I wasn't born until 91.
I know, but just isn't it? I mean, it's kind of interesting that. Anyway, all right, so that's okay. Nothing is fine. No reaction is good.
Nothing is fine. Nothing is okay.
Nothing's okay. So I do think that there is no doubt about the fact that, when you bring a guy in who has been a head coach and who has been on the path of head coaching and who has left another assistant coaching job. Well, of course, now he's not. He was an assistant in St. Louis. He's an associate in Montreal. I'm trying to still figure out the difference between that.
Yeah, what is an associate coach? I'm sorry, I don't know that.
I don't know. I really don't. Maybe that's a French thing.
Associate is a synonym for heir apparent, basically, which he is. And I really think that once if Montreal goes into a 5-game losing streak, you're gonna have Captain Kirk as your new head coach. I mean, the thing is that he was very popular there when they made a run a few years ago coaching the power play. He went to Carolina as the head coach, didn't work out well. He's gone to St. Louis. He's got a good reputation in the league. Some people don't think he's the best X's and O's coach, but yeah, I mean this is the disaster scenario or disaster backup in case things don't work out with Therrien. But I think that the funny thing is I think Bergevin is going to make roster moves this summer that are tailored toward making that team successful with Therrien. Meaning, if
he's never done that in the past. I mean, Bergevin, to his credit, has drafted players that Therrien doesn't like. And I'm saying it to his credit because I don't think the kind of players Therrien likes win in the NHL anymore. But the idea here is that he has drafted, he's made trades. The difference between these two coaches is night and day. I mean, just talking to people who've been around these two coaches, I mean, I cannot imagine them working together. I mean, and this is someone should talk to Gerard Gallant about this because Kirk Muller's a lot like Gerard Gallant, I would say, personality-wise, and that just that was not a happy scene in Montreal when he was the assistant or associate or whatever they called him back then. I think he was an assistant. But yeah, I mean, is he going to at some point, Bergeron does have to draft players that have no offensive upside, and try to fall into Therrien's way of doing things. But I think at this point, he's still trying to get players. Like, they are very much in on Yakupov. Like, that's a player that I could see working really well with Kirk Muller, but not working at all with Michel Therrien, maybe.
Well, to that point, if you're a general manager and you're going out and getting players that are not conducive to your coach, then you should fire the coach. Then you should have fired him. Because you're not giving that coach the best chance to win. You either get him the tools that he needs to win, or you get a coach that can work with the team that he has right now. And right now, if they go out and get Yakupov and they go out and get other players that don't fit with Therrien, then it's a recipe for disaster.
And at some point, you have to blame Bergeron. I mean, you really do. I mean, it's like, to my opinion, you have to blame him because he's kept this coach there. And the thing I keep hearing about Michel Therrien, and I hate to be so critical of the guy. He's not a terrible person or anything like that. It's just that what I keep hearing about him is that, he's a survivalist. Like, he will do what it takes to survive his job. So he'll say, yeah, you should go get that player. If somebody believes, if there's a meeting and go get that guy, but then whether Smith, Pelly, or whoever, just go pick them up. They're talented players, but then whether or not he plays them or not is another situation. So that has been so obvious and so evident. I mean, we've seen it in the past, and they had that great Stanley Cup run a few years ago, and led by players that he was playing 12 minutes a game, and they managed to get through that thing. And but then again, without Carey Price, it's a whole different ballgame, and we don't know what we have with Carey Price yet. So that really is what it comes down to. I mean, it's all up to Carey Price, isn't it? I mean, isn't that really what Montreal's about now? It's Carey Price,
it's what Montreal has always been about. I mean, Ty, I feel like I'm like arguing with a wall when the last few years, because I've said he's the most important player on that team, and if he is not in the lineup, they're a 500 club, and I apparently I gave him too much credit because they were under 500 without him. He's the most important player on that team.
Yeah, he's probably the most. If there's one player, I think he's probably the most important player to his team in the entire league.
Yeah,
it's like without them, they are a complete disaster. And hey, I mean, a lot of teams take away the number one goalie. That's gonna be the case. But with Montreal, it's even more telling, really, and it's more obvious than ever. When he is not playing, they are a dumpster fire, and that is an understatement, really. It's just, I don't know if that's because they have so much committed to him that the backup isn't going to be, a world beater. It's Mike Condon, it's Ben Scrivens, it's whoever they may sign. But it's so glaring when he is not playing. And yeah, I think he's the most important piece to any team in this league, no doubt.
I think I totally agree, and even though they so much want that not to be the case, and the players don't want that to be the case, but there are some quality players on this team. I mean, Pacioretty, Svan, these are really quality players. I'm not trying to rip the rest of them, but they just don't seem to have enough oomph to really get over the hump without incredible goaltending. And that's what it comes down to. And I have to admit, Mike, before I used to argue with you about this point, but now I have no foot to stand on, because it was proven right. Let's talk about the Florida Panthers logo for a second.
Oh, hell yeah.
Okay. All right. The Panthers have officially retired the leaping cat that became so famous for
not
before.
Retired. It's on their helmet.
They'll have an updated version on their helmet, but it's not going to be the same.
It's still leaping. How about that? It still looks a leaping.
The leaping cat, which I think is I always thought was a pretty cool logo. I thought for an expansion team, like considering they came in with the Ducks, right? Didn't they come in with the Ducks? I'm pretty sure they did.
Mighty Ducks.
Considering the Ducks logo, the Panthers had it all over the Ducks.
I don't know. Some of those throwback Mighty Ducks jerseys are pretty sick. Like pretty legit.
Yeah. I've got that.
Are you with her on this?
Yes, absolutely.
The throwback.
I grew up with Coach Bombay. I mean, I grew up with these movies.
Oh.
I've got that Steve Ruchin jersey in my closet. Geez.
All right, you guys stay here. I got to show you something.
Okay. Yeah, but I'm sorry. Let me be, like I said, let me be the
You're
skunk.
gonna be the Debbie Downer, we know.
I'm gonna be the skunk at the garden party. I look at that emblem and I'm like, that is the illegitimate son of the Jacksonville Jaguars. It looked, honestly, it looks so ECHL. It really does. I don't think it's a good.
I think it looks modern. It doesn't quite look like every other NHL jersey, but I do think that as we progress and more teams start changing, and this is not something that's going to happen in the next year, 5 years or so, but that's a modern, sleek logo design. It's very Web 2.0, and I think that's where you're going to see logos going.
But this is, I mean, Ty, this is what happened a few years ago. Back a few years ago with the Sabres, they had the traditional, buffalo with the two crossed swords, and they had to, for marketing and and merchandising purposes, so they switched from that to the decapitated goat's head.
Yeah.
And people in Buffalo hated that, and then they hated the garden slug that looked like a Donald Trump's toupee, and then in the end they went back to this. They went back to this, and this is what people
That's
here
what people
love.
like. So you guys like
Move
this?
it to your right a little. There you go. And now up a tinge.
All right.
Now back to your right a tiny bit.
I can't see.
There you go. It's
There
good
you go.
stuff.
Now go upstairs.
Yeah.
I like it.
All right. I like that, but you know what I really like? This, if they really want to be cool, they would do this. Come on now. This.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, that's you just can't.
This.
That's a third.
Yes.
That's a third jersey. That'd be cool.
They should go back. Why I don't know why they've never done this.
Isn't that the Long Island Ducks?
No, this is the movie Ducks.
Oh, okay.
This was the Ducks jersey in the first movie.
I didn't watch the movie after the first one. I didn't watch
Yeah.
any.
I mean, I like this. Look at this odd duck though. I mean, this is check this out. Never seen this really close up. Look at this.
It's like Howard the Duck.
Yeah.
It's even weirder than that.
It looks like a duck on mushrooms.
It says D5 on it. That whole. It was like this is it. I mean, this is legit. There's a guy on eBay. I mean, on Amazon. If you go on Amazon, you can get one of these made up with your name on it, and my name's on the back of this. I got this made for my daughter. I will not show you my name because, of course, I am anonymous. But my daughter's name's on the back of this, and but you can get this made up, and this is like really super thick, like really thick. Like I think there's like 5 shirts sewn together for this. I mean, this is unreal thick. You can get that for under $100, and like all the things sewn on and everything. It's a beautiful. Just on Amazon, check it out. It's really. I mean, of all the jerseys I have, it might be the best made. It feels like the whole thing was handmade. It's crazy. So that's the way they should go with it. That's my favorite. I mean, I don't know why they've never done that.
Well, if you look at the Ducks' current jerseys, they are the ugliest jerseys in the league. And
I do agree.
It's a weird duck foot thing. That looks
it is a weird duck foot.
They've come so far in the wrong direction.
Exactly.
They look to me like they should be delivering something overnight to your house.
But
Yes.
but I think that the Panthers have followed the Ducks.
I disagree.
I think Mike's got a point there. I
How
do.
so? How do you think that's a bad? How does that look bad? I'm not sure. I understand.
Well, it's going for the really like it's faux vintage is the best way I could
So
put
it's
it.
going for a market that's not traditional, and probably fits with that market.
No, they're trying to make it look like the jersey that they had before the Leaping Panther. Does that make any sense? Like they're pretending.
I don't think it looks like that. Hold on.
Like it looks to me like an older jersey, like a jersey from like the 60s or 70s maybe.
It looks old.
I do. I think it looks older.
If you want to look at the misstep that the Florida Panthers made, it's with their throwback jersey from 2009-10.
That's what I'm thinking of.
The blue, the light blue. That jersey was bad because the Panther looked stupid.
Okay,
Yes.
let's find out.
This one I think. This one has a really. It looks like a soccer jersey, which is not a bad thing in terms of like the actual
look like
logo.
a soccer jersey.
Yeah,
Look at
the
what
logo
a soccer
does.
jersey looks
I
like.
think it does.
The primary logo looks like a soccer logo.
Soccer jersey.
If you wrote Panasonic across it, you would have a soccer jersey.
Yeah,
The soccer jersey, the little logo is a tiny little crest up here. Look at my tweet. I tweeted what a real soccer jersey looks like.
I'm saying I'm saying the emblem itself, not the actual full jersey.
The emblem itself is the opposite of this. It's a panther looking the opposite way that the jaguar is in this emblem. It's terrible.
I don't think it's terrible. I think it looks sharp.
So I'm trying to find the Panthers.
Looking at Panthers right now.
Okay, so we're talking about this one, Ty, right? You're talking about this one now, right? So this is the other one?
Yes, that was horrible.
Yeah, that was terrible.
This is very, these are the hip colors though. Like this is like the whole thing.
Well, they want to be like the Penguins when they had Penguins.
Right, the Penguins or the Blue
Classic.
Jackets or the Wild or there's so many teams that seem to have the same kind of design.
Yes.
And then
that's why I like
this is a
jersey.
this is a panther that's just laughing at you like
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
Like
so
the panther looks fierce. Like I think he looks very fierce.
That's a panther that's laughing at you because you spent $200 on the jersey.
no, I don't.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Their old jerseys looked nice. I did like the old logo, and at first I didn't really think there was a need for a new jersey. But they don't have a throwback jersey. They don't. They don't have a.
Right, so you create a new jersey.
Every team does it though. It's not like this is something new. This is not like the Florida Panthers doing it. The only team that's ever done this. Every team evolves.
Oh, for sure.
Thing, suckers.
For sure. No, I agree.
Here's my thing: is that every team that redoes their color scheme, their logo, they always try to make it look like it's a throwback, like it's from 1945. Like Dallas Stars, all they did. The Dallas Stars took the Chicago Blackhawks St. Patrick's Day jerseys and made it their regular jersey. That's what they did, and they just put a D on it instead of the Indian head. So I really think that it was nice to see a team take some chance with some color, with some different logos with the shoulder patches. My one gripe about this entire jersey, because I liked the way this looked for Florida, was they got rid of the cross of the palm tree and the hockey stick. That is the one thing that I wish was still on this jersey.
It's not on one of the patches? I thought it was.
I don't believe so. Not the way that it used to look anyways. The way that it looked with the, it was slightly obnoxious in a way, but it was true to Florida, I thought. Like that really gave the flavor of, okay, we play in Florida, there are palm trees everywhere. We also play hockey, so let's cross the two.
Well,
here's an idea. So this gives you, for those of you who haven't seen it, this is the mannequin picture of the jersey. Okay, so you have this jersey and you have the Florida state flag as a patch on your side there. And I'm sure Mickey Mouse is in there somewhere. We just don't see it. It's like one of those Pixar things. But somewhere in there.
No matter what the Panthers do, they can't top the third jersey from the Tampa Bay Lightning from a few years ago for being the worst jersey of a Florida team. The
one that said Bolts.
The one that said Bolts was. I'm waiting for the other third jersey that said Nuts.
Yeah, no, that was Bolts was tough.
Yeah, it does. Your screen's about to.
Okay, yeah, I see. Okay, there we go. So, I think the stitching is kind of. I'm not a big fan of the stitching thing that they do on this. Like, it gives it that, like you're saying, Ty, like they're trying to go back to like when we had to sew things by hand, or that they're trying to say that this maybe was made by one of the millions of Amish people that live in Florida. But that sort of gives that look to it.
But it does. It does have that Montreal look in the sense that stripe down the middle, and I just. Don't go there. I mean, that is the realm of the Montreal Canadiens. Okay, that is what I will say. That stripe across the middle, right, I know it's in soccer a lot and stuff like that, but it is the realm of the Canadiens, and that is something that I was a little bit surprised that they did, especially because there is no bigger. But this is what's interesting about this. The largest draw for the Florida Panthers is the Montreal Canadiens. When the Canadiens come to town, it is so. In a way, maybe they're going for that somehow here. I wondered about that. Yeah, no,
I think they're trying to like sentimentally, because a lot of people who live in Florida were Canadiens fans.
Yeah, I know this because the Leafs draw pretty well down in Florida too. They purposely schedule the Montreal games I think in December and either December, January, or February because there's a ton of snowbirds down in southern Florida. So that's why, and you got a ton of Montreal fans. It's not a bunch of like Florida fans who just like Montreal. There's a ton of Quebec people down in Ontario who like the Habs down in Florida. So that's the reason why. But honestly, this is looking at the color scheme. It's a ripoff on the Canadians. A red jersey.
They were red before. What color were they before?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's no blue.
Wasn't it more orange?
No, it was red.
Okay.
It was red.
They had accents of orange in the logo itself.
Was red. Look at their old jerseys.
All right. Well, hold on.
Well, they're soon to be old.
And X going to get another jersey. There you go. But yeah, I mean, I will grant you, and I shouldn't say anything because the Maple Leafs are going to be changing their jersey this year. But it's the strange thing is Ty, like you said, that there are other teams that are trying to look like they're throwbacks. The Leafs are actually going. The emblem is the old emblem. I mean, they're changing the lettering of the word Toronto and Maple Leafs a little bit, but it's basically the emblem of that they had from like the 40s to the late 60s. And we don't know what the jersey's going to look like, but it's probably going to look very similar to what it did before. So it's basically they're going to a throwback jersey, which was what Toronto should do because them and Montreal are the oldest franchises in the league, and that you want that classic look. But for the other 28 teams, I guess you have carte blanche to do whatever you want, or maybe not Chicago, Boston, New York, Detroit, but
those fans would go nuts.
Yeah.
Here's obviously this is the Montreal jersey. Okay, so the idea of the stripe through the middle, right? And it does look it looks really different to me. I don't think that's terrible. Because it's a white. There's no blue in that jersey. The blue is what sets that Montreal jersey off. And then of course this was like the
alternate?
No, this one,
Yeah, the negative.
Which I think is cool. I think Montreal should use this jersey more often.
It's better than that barbershop quartet one that they had a few years ago.
Right. And then
the one that caused epileptic fits.
This is my favorite jersey of all time, all right? This is it.
The Flying V?
Oh yeah, this is this Vancouver Canucks jersey rocks, I think. That's my opinion. Just throwing that out there. I got a couple hundred more.
I just think with Florida, my closing thought on it is that it was just nice to see a team commit to a non-three-stripe look with the double lettering. It's just a single shoulder patch. It's nice to see a team take a little bit of a chance, modernize their logo a bit. Everyone is obsessed with going back to how it used to be, the Islanders, the Flyers. Everyone goes back to what they used to look like with their jerseys. It's nice to see a team invent a new logo, just straight up invent a new logo, and really deviate from what their norm was with their prior jerseys.
Go ahead, Jillian.
I was just going to say my closing thought. I pretty much am right there with you, Ty, that I like seeing them and deviate from the norm of the NHL. Deviate, like this is not a very NHL-looking logo, and I like that. I think that a lot, and I think they knew they were going to get pushback, or else they wouldn't have done it, because it's great for marketing to get everybody talking about it, and I think it's great. I think it appeals to the market that they want, and I think that it's nice to see it, and I like it. My closing thought is I am a fan of the new logo and the new jerseys.
My closing thought is that after they sell as many jerseys as they can of this particular jersey, probably 4 or 5 years down the road, they'll end up going back to the old jersey because they can. I
think what they're doing, I knowing Peter Luco a little bit, I think he's probably involved in this, right? Because he's the guy who came from Philly, and they were really into the fact that the Flyers never really had a third jersey, and he went kicking and screaming with the crazy orange 3-dimensional one that was just horrible.
Or the black one.
Yeah, the black one just sold a lot, and they couldn't. Black jerseys just sell more. That's why but they shouldn't be worn on the ice because that's a horrible contrast. But this, like you're saying, like this Ducks jersey, I can't stand. I can't stand these V's that come up the side like this.
It's horrible.
I just don't like it all. But
a lot of teams have those. I don't know if
a lot of teams have them.
I mean,
Well,
that
the
was
Sabres had them, right? The Sabres used to have them.
The Sabres had that gray section underneath the arms. I think it was something because the jerseys were made by Reebok. I think it was Reebok, and that was symbolic of Reebok's design. They had a gray patch coming up the sides of the uniform, which didn't really fit with anything because gray isn't part of the Sabres color scheme.
Well, this goes into this I do like this one. All right, I will say I do like this Ducks jersey. I like the orange one, but I'm a big fan of orange.
It's because that centerpiece logo. That's why.
Yeah, no, the logo I'm okay with, but I like the orange. But I do think that that they are taking that something from the Flyers as well. But I will say this, that remember the whole controversy when they went to the lighter jerseys, like it was an All-Star game. They introduced these jerseys. I was at the All-Star game. They gave the media jerseys. That was really the crazy thing. Like, it was the only time ever we were given a $200 jersey. Everybody was in the media. I think this time we were given a hot dog maybe or something.
Was it Phil Kessel Day? No, just kidding.
Yeah. No, I think we were given a chocolate Stanley Cup last year. That was pretty cool.
Yes, you were.
Yeah, I remember that. But so I don't know. I think that what they're trying to do in Florida is the other one was probably, knowing Peter Luca, he probably thought the other one was a little cartoon-like. And this is more collegiate. That's my thing. That's my final line. And I think it's got a classy thing to it. So I'm over it. And I think we had the perfect panel because I think that this is the panel to talk about these jerseys, because I know Ty, you have your jersey collection, I have my jersey collection, and these are you still haven't found your Bruins jersey that you really want, right?
Which one? The one from 1920. Yeah. 28. Yeah. The Eddie Shore jersey. That is.
I have eBay.
They make 4 of them a year. They make the pro shop carries them. It's a legit sweater. It's not like a straight jersey. It is an actual thick sweater that is very heavy. Even a size small, I think, weighs 9 pounds. So I'm looking forward to wearing that weighted vest like Yager. But it really does feel like they make 10 of them a year and they sell out so quickly. But yeah, it's if you play the EA NHL games, or just seen the pictures from 20s, they do have this jersey. It is one that Eddie Shore and Lionel Hitchman and Dick Clapper, all those guys, they wore that jersey. It's the first Bruins jersey. It's brown and yellow. There's no black.
Is that the one with the massive B?
No, it has the bear, the logo that is now the shoulder patch, but it's the old school version of it. Okay. But they make them in such limited runs that it's one of the hardest things to find. I don't even know if they still make them now that Reebok is switching over. Who knows what they're going to be doing?
Yeah.
Because I don't think Reebok makes it. The NHL itself makes it. So it's a fascinating jersey, but it's the hardest one to find. It's awesome. If you ever find it, definitely get it.
I have been. I have a search on this thing on eBay because I'm trying to find one for you forever. I want to find the right one, and I just like to surprise you at some point. Won't be surprised now, but I just want you to have.
Don't be surprised now. Way to ruin.
So, no, but I'm totally I think that's a
bummer.
I love the search for jerseys like that. For the longest time, I really, really, really wanted a Colorado Rockies jersey, and I finally got one. I think they were the coolest jerseys, and I got one. Now it's easy because they suddenly make all these Colorado Rockies stuff again, which is really funny. And I got a Kansas City Scouts jersey, for crying out loud, a few weeks ago. So, and that is probably one of the worst looking jerseys you'll ever see for a team that really
it looks like a bowling trophy in the middle of it.
Probably the most. It looks like they that crying Indian, from the commercials, up on a horse. Yeah, it's not good. And that I remember talking to Bill Clement, who played for the Kansas City Scouts for a brief period of time, and it was literally the worst. Talk about a disaster for a hockey situation. The Kansas City Scouts.
There you go.
Yeah, there it is, right there. There's the logo. It's
oh wow, that's really.
Yes. I bring you peace.
Yeah, and the horse takes a dump on your jersey. There you go.
Well, that's nice.
The best. One of my favorite old school jerseys from around that time, California Golden Seals.
Yes.
Yeah.
Love the color scheme, the simplistic logo. It's so fitting for that era, I thought, and that's a jersey that everyone should own, in my opinion.
Now, do you like the one that says Seals on it, or do you like the actual other one?
I like the one that says Seals on it. I think that one is very. Yeah. It has a cool look to it. It looks like something out of that movie Semi-Pro with Will Ferrell.
Yeah.
It looks like something Jackie Moon would wear, so I'm a big fan of that.
Yep.
But it's funny. Like, there are so many. You look at these old school jerseys, and you see teams are starting to gravitate back towards that. I think like teams that are around back then, like the LA Kings, they're going to be wearing those gold ones probably quite a bit next year, I would imagine, as part of their 50th year celebration.
Yeah, they really should, and the gold ones are awesome. I mean, they really and I have a purple one. The purple one is awesome. I mean, I was really upset, but what's really funny is how the Kings had that stretch of time, when they were with the Gretzky jersey, right? And the Gretzky jersey, they've never brought back, like the silver one.
The silver and black?
Yeah.
My question is, what do you guys think of the Phoenix Coyotes old jersey?
Oh, I love that jersey. It's my favorite.
I love that jersey too. And that jersey is really cheap. You can find that jersey for almost nothing.
One of my favorites.
I once secret, those who don't know, I run our Facebook page on HockeyBuzz, and last year when the Coyotes wore those, I took a screenshot of me watching of that game. I was watching it on my computer, and I posted a photo, and all of my caption I wrote was "Bring them back." That's all I said.
That's
I
awesome.
didn't care that no one supported it. I didn't run it through anyone. I was like, I'm gonna post this, say "Bring them back."
It's so.
Everyone was really pissed.
I wish I would have liked it.
Oh yeah, when you go to that area, that is so perfect to that area. Everything has that design on it. It's just it makes.
And that is the jersey from the glory. Well, the only thing that you could consider the glory days of the Phoenix Coyotes, because that was the jersey during Roenick and Kachuk.
I mean, the current jersey's not that bad though. It's just not as awesome as the other.
Well, you all remember that I don't know if you remember. We'll move on after the jerseys after this. But the one thing that I pitched really hard to the NHL, and there's something happened where they couldn't do this, but I actually did get somewhere on it. Was this idea for the outdoor game?
Yes.
Which is
I love that.
So when the
I love that. That is that's cool. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, which is the California Seals jersey that Ty's talking about, but just like with sharks written on it.
Yeah, the Charlie Finley color.
I think like the throwback though. I think it's only good for the outdoor game.
The Charlie Finley colors. I mean that makes it. Well, the one thing I can say, I mean, there's going to be a lot of things in Toronto for the 100th anniversary that are going to be cool. But the one thing that I think is going to be the coolest is the fact that they're going to wear, I think, 5 or 6 different jerseys throughout the year, like different jerseys throughout the history of the team. So you'll see the one they wore at the outdoor game at the Big House, and like 3 or 4 others. So they're not just going to be wearing their new jersey, they're going to be wearing other jerseys as well, and I can't wait for that.
What I think is cool about that, too, is like when you think of a jersey, especially when, like you were saying, Mike, earlier about the old Coyotes jersey, it reminded you of a specific era. It reminds you of like a certain memory that you associate with that era of that sports team. That's what's so cool about those throwback jerseys. I know some people are like, it's such a marketing thing, and yes, it is, but it also reminds you of something too. It brings back something that you remember from that team.
100%.
Yeah, and the last thing about this Toronto emblem that I'm peeling off the wall right now, this is the emblem that they adopted in 1970. That they had an emblem after they won their last cup in 1967 for a few years, and then because apparently the copyright for that emblem was owned by the previous ownership, Harold Ballard, the curmudgeon owner of the Maple Leafs, decided to go to this modern, more straight-lined leaf emblem, and they've had this emblem as their primary emblem for 44 years, and that just happens to be the 44 years that they have not won the Stanley Cup. So a lot of people in Toronto associate this emblem with pain and losing.
Yeah.
Wow. There you go. Interesting.
So there's a little bit of history for you guys, too. That's actually a pretty interesting history fact.
So let's talk about the game tomorrow before we get out of here. We did talk about it a little yesterday, but I wanted to get Ty's opinion on this as well. Where do you see this series right now, Ty?
This series, I tweeted this, and I feel very strongly about this, is that this series feels like the first 2 games of the Boston Bruins and Vancouver Canucks series in 2011, where the Penguins, there are stretches where the Penguins dominate, but they don't bury the Sharks. The Sharks hang around. They finally get a goal late in the third period of Game 2, much like when I think it was Recchi scored late in Game 2 in Vancouver. They lose it quickly in overtime, not as quickly as Alex Burrows beating Tim Thomas 11 seconds in, but again, quickly. Same thing, Nick Bonino scores in Game 1, again, not as late as Rafi Torres in Game 1 in 2011,
Right.
but it is sort of that dagger. You're late enough in the game where it is sort of the death blow.
Yeah.
But I look at this series and I see it switching to San Jose, and I say, I really feel like the games in 3 and 4 in San Jose are going to be blowouts in favor of the Sharks. I just think their crowd's going to be amped up. It's their first time there. I really think that this is going to be an incredibly noisy building, and I really think that this is the best chance for the Sharks to get out a goalie like Matt Murray, a goalie who is younger. He hasn't been here. I mean, he's played so well, but it can be tricky when you're away from your home building, I think, especially at this stage. So this series feels like that to me. I think you're going to see a gigantic effort from San Jose tomorrow night. I do think that it's going to be. I do think we head back to Pittsburgh tied up 2-2. It's just a weird feeling that I have, just based on I've seen this story before. I've seen this, so something needs to happen though that wakes the Sharks up, that just gets them going.
I love that comparison, Ty. And the thing is, like I've been saying ever since Game 1, that San Jose has to be more physically imposing. And that Bruin team in 2011, when they came back for games 3 and 4, they ran the Canucks out of the building. They destroyed them physically.
Wasn't the 8-1 or 5-0? What was the score? It was a crazy game.
8-1 in Game 3.
Right, 8-1.
4-0 in Game 4 or something like that.
San Jose doesn't have Milan Lucic, or doesn't have anybody who equals the antagonism of Brad Marchand, or a physically imposing guy like Chara. But they do have big guys, they do have quick guys. They have guys who can stir the pot, and that's what they need to do. They need to hit Letang, they need to hit Crosby, they need to get in front of Matt Murray's face. They got to be disruptive.
Yep.
If they do that, they can climb back in this series. If they do what they did in Pittsburgh, which was show up for minutes and then disappear at minutes, this series is over quickly.
Yeah. I think Nick said one thing yesterday that was very important to note, is that it looks like Pittsburgh is playing their best hockey right now, whereas San Jose, we may not have seen their best. So I think that's important to note. I don't think that it's going to be a blowout. I still think that Pittsburgh has the edge. I wasn't as close to the Vancouver and Boston series, although now that you're really saying that, I'm realizing just how similar those two are. But I think Logan Couture letting some of that frustration out, I think, was a good tipping point for them. I think if they come out real physical, I think that was really the emotion that you're seeing boil over, and I think that's important that he got out there and said that. Whether he should have said it or not, whole different story. But I think that's important because it shows they are still there. They are frustrated. They do care. So
what we're gonna need, Ty, is somebody to speed bag Phil Kessel like Brad Marchand did to one of the Sedins.
Well, you know what it is? I really think when you watch these two games, it didn't feel like San Jose wanted to make life hell for the Penguins. It felt like this was a 2-game feeling out process. You really started to see the nastiness towards the end of Game 2, but it felt like for those first 100+ minutes there, that San Jose, it's almost like they didn't have an issue with Pittsburgh. But you need to find an issue. You need to find a way to get angry, to get physical, to find something that really pisses you off about this team. And sometimes it's harder to manufacture that.
Yeah. I was going to say the reason for getting angry is they're now down 2 games in the Stanley Cup Final. If you can't find a reason there, you're kind of screwed.
But you see, here's the thing with San Jose. What you saw was that they didn't really play well unless they played desperate. When they were down when you're down 1-0, you're not playing desperate. You're still like hanging in there. You're going to try to get a chance. When you fall down 2-0 like they did, they came out and played the kind of hockey they have to play. They were taking the extra chance. They were taking the extra thing. And when they played down 2-0, they played desperate hockey until they tied it again. At which time they didn't play desperate again, and then they fell back into the same kind of mode. The same thing happened at the end of the third period of Game 2 when they started pouring it on.
But they were fortunate. They got the power play at the beginning of the second period in game 1 that got them on the board, and then they, like you said, they pressed the attack and they finally got the tying goal. But then in the third period, they sort of ceded the territory back to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh took the game back over, and Jones basically kept them in until that winning goal of the Bonino's goal late in the third.
Well, this reminds me a lot of DeBoer's Jersey Devils team that he had. The way they play that way, because that Devils team did the same thing. They would hang in, and they would hang in, and they would counterattack. And the problem is, you could tell that they didn't want to, they didn't know how to play Pittsburgh. First of all, they didn't really know how to play them, and so what they were afraid of, which is and rightfully so, is you don't want to get trapped. You don't want to get caught. You don't want to give 2-on-1s up, 3-on-2s up. So they played. They would never send more than one guy in. They always had their third guy high. They kept that thing. They never, until they fell behind, and they had to.
Yeah,
They weren't trusting them. They weren't trusting their own defense. They weren't trusting their own goalie, and they were just hoping for Pittsburgh to make mistakes. And Pittsburgh played pretty flawless hockey, so they weren't making mistakes. Pittsburgh wasn't. And the other thing is the problem with the Sharks not playing aggressive is when the Sharks don't play aggressive, they don't draw penalties, and when the Sharks don't draw penalties, they don't get on the power play, and without the Sharks on the power play, they can't win the series, because that's the bottom line.
Constantly chasing the Pens around, it's going to be really hard to be physical, and it's going to be really hard to draw penalties. And if the refs are going to be as loose with their whistles as they were in Game 2, it's going to be really hard to get penalties. I mean, there were some very obvious calls for both sides that I like when the refs let them play, I do, but I think you have to be careful in a this is going to be, I imagine, a very fast game, hard-hitting game. You have to be careful because they can get out of control quickly. They can. So I do hope to see the refs maybe tighten up a tiny bit.
I want to say more penalties definitely benefits the Sharks. I mean, the Penguins' power play has been weak lately. The Sharks' power play has had, I think they had 3 power plays, right, and they scored on one of them in the series so far. So
the difference between the Devils from 2012 and the Sharks is the Sharks have offensive depth. It's not just Kovalchuk and Zach Parise. That team had to play rope-a-dope. They had to play a defensive style and counterattack, like you said. San Jose has enough depth and enough offensive talent. They should be carrying the offensive attack to the Penguins and going after the most vulnerable part of their game, which is their defense. Their defense has, other than Letang, is relatively inexperienced and not very good defensively. But you never find that out because they're always carrying the puck and skating away from the Shark players.
Because you're afraid of the counterattack, which is what the Penguins do. So, but I think Ty's right. I think that with now down 2-0, desperation settles in too, and the Sharks will come out like they're on fire, and they will be in front of their crowd. They're going to have that nothing to lose thing, and the Penguins are going to have to hold them off. I mean, I could see the first period where the Penguins are going to sit back and hold them off. The Penguins know it's coming. There's not a whole lot of for the Penguins when you win the first 2 games at home. All they've been hearing all week is how 99% of all teams that win the first 2 games at home, and that's just, it's unbelievable. 91%, although 50% of the last 4. But whatever we talked about yesterday with math, the bottom line is the Penguins really, I don't think there's a whole lot of motivation to sweep this series. So I get the sense that they feel really confident at home now, and if they can win 1 game in San Jose, they'll be okay. And is this true? Someone said to me, is it possible that the Penguins have never won the Stanley Cup at home? Someone said that to me the other day.
They won in Chicago.
I heard that on the radio. And they won 4 Stanley Cups.
They won in Chicago. They won. I'm pretty sure they won in Minnesota.
Right.
And they won in Detroit. Yeah.
They won in Detroit. And
they won in Detroit.
Talbot's 2 goals. That's it. They've only won 3. They've been.
No, they won. Didn't they win more than that?
4. They lost in 08. Crosby.
All right, they won. So yeah,
Yeah, they lost at home.
Right, they lost at home, but they've won 3 Stanley Cups, but they've never won a Stanley Cup at home. So, I think that there's not nearly the pressure on the Penguins to sweep this series. I don't think they're going to sweep the series.
Let's just say if they win Game 3.
Right, I think Game 3 is going to be San Jose's game. I think Game 3 is going to be San Jose's game. I really would be shocked if San Jose.
It better be.
I look at Game 3 and I look at Joe Thornton. He's got to set the tone. He's got to. I like the way he's played physically with some snarl to his game. Game 1, he's punching Malkin in the mouth. At the end of the period. Game 2, he smacks the helmet off Crosby.
Yeah.
Really being the grumpy old man of this series that he looks like. But I do think you need that. You need that right off the jump. You need that not when you're down, not when you're trying to make a comeback, but right off the jump, set the tone. Make life uncomfortable for them. You have to do that. I look at Thornton and Marleau, 2 guys that have been waiting to get to this point their entire careers. Now it's on them to really set the tone and lead. I know they don't have the C anymore. Both those guys were captain at one point. They're not anymore.
Yeah.
But they can still lead this team the way it needs to be led. And I do think that if they do, we will be talking about a very close series come Monday.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think I really do, having seen Thornton up close, having talked to him a little bit, and Marlowe, you really get the sense that winning this is very important to Joe Thornton. I'm not saying you don't get that sense with Marlowe, but you really do get it with Thornton. Marlowe is a hard guy to read, but he's very private. But Thornton, it matters. Like after game 2, you could tell it mattered, and he's gonna play. I mean, some of his passing has just been phenomenal. I mean, his ability to make passes. I mean, I put out a poll in the middle of game 1, who's the better passer, Crosby or Thornton. And about 5,000 people responded, and I think 60% said Thornton, which I think is probably what I would have expected. But yeah, I think that's pretty good. So I'm with you, Ty. I think it does remind me of that series as well. Hopefully this doesn't end up with cars on fire in Pittsburgh next week. But yep, it does remind me of that.
Are you renting or are you driving?
We're driving.
Find your car.
I know.
Far away from the console.
Say goodbye to the Hummer. So anyway, yeah, we'll see what happens. But yeah,
San Jose, Eck.
What was that?
When do you leave? You're going to San Jose, right?
I'm going to San Jose tomorrow morning.
Nice.
I'll be there. I arrive at 11:30, about this time tomorrow. I guess about an hour from now tomorrow, so 25 hours from now. I'll arrive, and which is really fun. I'm arriving at 11:30, and the game is at 5, right? So the game is at 5 in San Jose, which is cool because I have lots of friends, and I get to go out after the game and have a whole night. It's kind of fun. Assuming this game doesn't go, of course, this will be the game that goes 3 overtime. So
yeah. Way to jinx it, Eck. Way to jinx it.
there you have it. But yeah, I'm meeting with a lot of people in San Jose, and there will be another meetup on the concourse in San Jose. I don't know the section yet, so just follow me on Twitter. We had a really fun time the other night, and don't worry, Russ won't be there this time.
Hopefully that guy from Jillian's video with the horse head is not there either.
It'll just be
like
me.
a good time though, didn't he?
It'll just be me, but I definitely love to meet people. So come. One of the things I'm trying to do, and I did it a little bit in the last game. I took some pictures. So if you have a really obscure jersey with an obscure name on the back of it, I'm all about that. I'd like to take pictures of people with obscure jerseys. The best I found last game was the San Jose Sharks. This was in Pittsburgh. A guy wearing a Sharks Archers Urbe jersey, which I loved. That was awesome. So if you have something
1994.
there were some good Penguins jerseys too. I saw what was the one I saw it was a goalie, like one of their obscure goalies. I can't remember, but there are some good ones. I love those kind of things. If you have an obscure jersey, wear it, find me, and I'll take a picture of it and post it to Instagram because I think that's a blast. And the funny thing was, so the person with the Archers Urbe, there was a woman who was wearing the Archers Urbe jersey, and her husband was wearing a Danny Heatley jersey. So Sharks. So these are definitely obscure Sharks fans, which I like. But Urbe was really good for a while there. Remember that
They were the 8th place team in 1994 and beat the 1st place Detroit Red Wings
on the power of Archers Urbe.
And Sandus Olszewicz.
Before we leave, one thing I got to show you along those lines.
Where'd he go to?
He's getting another jersey.
Right. All right. So.
I hope you're listening. I can't hear him when he talks this far
Yeah,
away.
I know.
All right, I'm back.
Okay.
All right, so
that far away.
I know, stupid microphone, directional microphone. All right, so sitting on this. All right, so I got this the year the Sharks entered the league, and honestly, I got this the year the Sharks entered the league, and it was they tried to go back to this. What's up?
It's a Pat Falloon jersey.
It is. It's a Pat Falloon jersey. There you go. Okay. So Pat Falloon, for those of you who don't remember, was drafted right after Eric Lindros.
Yep.
And
I was at that draft, so that's why I remember.
You were at that draft, really?
It was in Buffalo. It was
That's right.
Lindros didn't go to the Quebec table, and Falloon was the first. He got a cheer from the Buffalo crowd because he actually took the jersey and acknowledged that he was a member of the team, unlike Lindros, who rejected Quebec.
Right. And eventually, remember, Pat Falloon and Lindros played on a line together in Philly. That's true. Which is really funny because neither of them were drafted by the Flyers. And But when this jersey came out, I'm telling you, this was my favorite jersey in the NHL. I love this color. I thought it was really cool. No one had ever been this color before, and they went back to that sort of, but not. They don't. I wish they would go back to this exact vintage jersey. I think it's way cooler.
It is it's one of the better color schemes in the league. Anything that has a bright and a dark, is perfect by me.
Yeah, I mean, I got a car this color. I like this jersey so much. Like I was like looking at cars. I got a car this color.
I have a bright mint green car myself, so I know the feeling.
Yeah, you know what I mean. It's just like you find it cool. And I will say that, and I said this the other night, that I really do believe that this color scheme between these two teams is pretty cool. Like I think these are two interesting color. I think the Penguins, the black and silver. I mean the black and gold, and the Sharks teal and silver. It's a good color scheme. These are good uniforms against each other. Especially, it's going to look really good, I think, in San Jose.
Before we go, did the Penguins switch back to these colors because Vegas is coming in again, going to use actual Vegas gold?
That's a good question.
Ooh.
That's my like theory on this, because I've heard the rumors that Vegas is going to be a black and gold team as well. It would make sense if they want to steal the Vegas gold.
Bill Foley, the presumptive owner of the franchise, I know that he did an interview on Hockey Night in Canada last year, and he said that if it was his way, the team's name would be the Las Vegas Black Knights.
That's for the, what is it? What school was it, or what?
Yeah, I think it's Army.
Army.
Yeah. So
that's why, right? That's what it is.
Yeah, I don't know if he went to West Point, but that would make sense. But if that is the team name, then you would think that the jersey probably would be black and gold.
Yeah.
That would be cool. You know, this is the last thing we'll say. I know I've said that before, but this is really good. The team that I love, the Vegas jersey I love for a hockey team, was the Las Vegas Gamblers.
Yeah, I don't think they want to do that.
Yeah.
No, but this was a real. I mean, they just played a couple years ago. Remember? I mean, Brizgalov played on the Gamblers. But this was a really cool. See if I can see the hockey jersey here.
I just hope there's not a hockey player named Joe Jackson or.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I know it's sort of definitely. It's not maybe the best idea, but these were cool jerseys, and I can't find one right now. But anyway, they were cool. They had what was cool about them is they had a bandit on it, a good old, and that is really like what you see around that area. You see there's those ghost towns and stuff like that.
You mean it wasn't a picture of Kenny Rogers?
No, it wasn't the Gambler.
Wrangler.
You got to know when to hold them. No, this was their actual logo. How cool is this? Check this out. Isn't that cool?
Yeah, I like that.
I thought that was a cool logo.
It's like
LVNV.
Jason Voorhees takes Chicago. Like I don't.
Yeah, it's Jason in the mob. There you go. All right. Remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey, and without hockey, it's nothing. Talk to you soon.